Hello and welcome to A Day with the Cart Driver. We're at the second last of these. This is Scamp.
And I'm Day.
We're at the spring 2019 season.
No, summer 2019
summer
season.
2019 season.
Goodness.
The last big season, because to be honest, the season after this wasn't much.
And we didn't really watch a whole lot of it. And we're not going to have time to go back to the ones that were like, oh yeah, I've heard that's good. Gee, maybe we should go back to it. So.
But the summer season, on the other hand,
was quite full.
Was very, very full.
Not even just for us. There are some pretty heavy hitters here.
Yeah, nothing on the scale of Demon Slayer last season when it comes to just impact, but...
Well, impact. That's an interesting thing to say, though, in the sense of we don't actually know what the impact of these shows is yet.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer is very popular.
Yeah.
Whether it will prove to be at all influential remains to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, it's the anime of the decade according to Funimation's poll.
Someone else had it as their one of the decade. Oh, whatever. I mean, yeah. Recency bias. This is also why I'll admit I've gotten increasingly uneasy the closer we've gotten to the present.
Yeah.
And also why I'm a bit resistant about doing a top decade list, because it feels somewhat absurd to me to attempt to compare something I watched this year with something that I watched in 2015 and have rewatched twice.
Yes.
So, but I know I'm the no fun zone.
On the other hand, you know something that spanned the entire decade?
Symphogear, which ended this season, and I still haven't gotten over it, okay? I'm still not okay with it. And, I hope that there's some chance they'll change their mind. And I'm sure someone will be like, oh, well, but it'll ruin the emotional impact of it. Look, folks, I am not watching Symphogear because it is a deep, meaningful work that speaks to my soul. I would perfectly happily accept pretty much any bullshit they came up with to have yet another iteration of it. But, yeah, this was... So, the first season of Symphogear was 2011 or 12?
I think it's 2011.
And here we are, final year of the decade, we get the fifth season. I mean, it's more of what Symphogear has done to this point. However, there was one aspect in which it felt a bit like it was a throwback to the first season, and that's that, wow, the gore increased significantly in this. Symphogear, generally speaking, has been fairly cartoonish in its approach to violence, so it felt pretty shocking for the first episode to include, someone's heart getting ripped out. Probably the weakest villains that ever existed in any of the seasons, which is a bit of a downer. But, I enjoyed it. But again, I could watch Symphogear until the sun exploded. I like it. It's fun. It's goofy.
It sounded like it was quite because a lot of the people who I follow, we were talking about Symphogear and how it ended up being this cult hit that spread quite...
People went back to it. This is one of the shows that... Because I know when it, the first season was streamed on the English language Nico Nico, and I know that because I watched it there, as I also watched, Prince Sama, so I can tell you that the total amount of people who had watched the final episode on there was in the, mid-double digits. So not a lot of people watched this at the time. And, I'll also point out, Nico Nico didn't cost anything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a matter of people pirated it because they didn't want to pay for something. No, Nico Nico didn't cost a dime. And it didn't have commercials on it either. So it's not even they didn't want to see the commercials. So to say that this is one where people ended up going back to it in fairly significant numbers, I really mean it. I'm not just talking out of my butt.
I was saying it's fairly comparable. Nothing, I don't think anything like on the same scale, but it's fairly comparable to the Russia people going back to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah.
In terms of cult hit. JoJo's by now has, put it this way, I was talking about Demon Slayer's popularity and someone responded to me and said at the fair, at the Anime Expo they were just at, they saw more JoJo's cosplayers than Demon Slayer.
Well, and
But
it's kind of because JoJo's 2 has had this. I mean, JoJo's, that was a bunch of that stuff they were the original memes of the internet. So it's kind of a weird case to begin with.
But in the sense of, like, not actually that many people watched the first season of JoJo's when it came out. It just, as more got made, the kind of word of mouth spread, images spread, and like things like that, and it just ended up blowing up. Again, different scale.
It also, it went back to being a big source of memes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Symphogear, yeah. I guess the folks just want to move on from it because I know it's still. This is also a rare example of its sales have increased season on season.
Yeah.
Yeah, but.
Oh well.
I guess all good things must come to an end. And, I did enjoy the ways in which they integrated callbacks to previous seasons in it. And I got to the end of it, and first of all, I'd somehow missed what apparently everyone else was aware this was the last season. I somehow wasn't tracking that. So I was a bit crushed when they made it pretty clear that that was it.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and rewatch the whole thing.
You did?
I haven't yet, but...
That's the plan?
The plan is, in the new year... Well, autumn was a bit busy, so I didn't really have time for that sort of project.
So Symphogear, overall, one of your favorite anime of the decade?
Absolutely!
Yes. Top 10?
Maybe. Didn't you hear me say I don't really like doing top lists of a decade?
I just published, when I'm recording this, I just published my anime of the decade list, of which this next anime was... Oh,
this is another one that I saw people getting up in arms. Well, maybe.
It made my top 10 right at the end. Vinland Saga.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about a different show
No,
this season.
Vinland Saga made my top of 10 anime of the decade. My story with Vinland Saga is the first 3 episodes all came out at once. They aired the first 3 and then skipped 3 weeks. But one thing they did, I had just got my tooth taken out. I'd come back from the dentist. I was still high on drugs. And I curled up, feeling sorry for myself in an armchair with a hot chocolate and holding my...
Wait a minute.
Childhood teddy. Yeah.
You were drinking a hot drink right after having the tooth out?
It wasn't right after, but it was a bit after. It was. I was at the stage in which that I was allowed to do that.
I'm a bit skeptical, but go on.
I'd had a bit of drugs anyway, and so I sat down, curled up, and watched the first 3 episodes of Vinland Saga. And watching them, I was like, "This is literally the greatest anime of all time." I felt like there's a specific scene in episode 2, I think, where the main character, they're burying this runaway slave that had died there. They just bought its freedom, and then he died, the slave, and like straight away afterwards. And they're burying it under, and the northern lights are in the sky because it's set in Iceland at the start. It's the one about the Vikings. That even just in case you...
Finland, and it's about the Vikings? What?
I know, and they're burying and the son is standing with his dad under the northern lights, and I felt like I was transported back to being age 4 and watching Simba talk to Mufasa.
Oh.
Yes.
Huh.
It was weird.
Of course, you were also high, apparently.
Yeah. And the show is an epic. It's something that I feel like we haven't had anything on this level since the original Berserk, and this is in many ways better. It lacks a lot of the more troubling, the elements of Berserk that don't age super well. But yeah, Vinland Saga is incredible. It's an epic, and it's really, really good at being an epic. Slow moving. So this first season, which is just finished, is basically the prologue, as people have called it.
I think it called itself the prologue.
Yeah, the director, because he tweeted at the end of it to say, like, "Thank you for watching the prologue for Vinland Saga," because this manga's been running since 2011. Actually, maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit older than that.
I was like, thank you.
Granted, it runs in it's not a weekly.
No.
God, it couldn't be with those backgrounds it does.
Yeah. So the director said like, and hopefully more in the future, something like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not like Berserk and where it doesn't get a sequel. The one that I'm slightly wary of because Berserk, the Golden Age arc, which is what the first season was adapted of, is so much better than kind of this demon stuff that comes after that. But I feel like Vinland Saga has... The people who read Vinland Saga have said it's still incredible the whole way through. So apart from maybe one arc where they just farm for like 3 volumes.
That sounds great.
Yes.
That sounds like my kind of content.
Yeah. Maybe you should, I'm not sure if you'd like Vinland Saga, but yeah, I love it.
I find it conceptually interesting rather than being personally interested in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I've a fair bit about Viking mythology, not even mythology, just
history.
Just history, because I mean, there's characters like King Canute is in here, Thorkel the Tall, who was actually a real hero.
I think you told me that Svein Forkbeard shows up too.
Yeah, Thorkel, by the way, best girl. All these kids, like the Thumbs Viking. What are they called again? The Thumbs Vikings. No, I forgot. They're all Thor something or other. Thorkel, Thorfinn, Thors.
Well, I mean, considering that Thor was one of the most important gods in their, religion, that's...
Yeah. And we went to Denmark recently because we got married there, and we went there for our 5th anniversary. You remember that?
Yeah.
And we went to Viking because it being...
Well, I took you to the Viking ship museum.
And I spent my time going around going like, oh yes, you see, this is the one that the merchant had in Vinland Saga. And then like go, yes.
And then the bits in the National Museum as well with all the Viking stuff.
Yeah. And then when I went out of the Viking era, I was like, oh, I've lost interest now. This has nothing to do with Vinland Saga.
Having said that, if you do ever get the chance, the Viking ship museum is quite impressive. I think they could also use some increased foot traffic because they're going to have to replace their building.
Oh, yeah, because it's right by the water. It looks like it's going to collapse into the ocean at any point.
Well, so we were there. So this was in November that we were there. And they had all this plywood braced up against the side of the museum that faces the water because the museum overlooks the water. And there was stuff about how, there's flooding problems with this facility, and
it's a good thing we've got these old
climate change.
Good thing we've got all these old Viking boats to sail away in.
Wow, they said. That's the big concern with flooding is they don't think the ships would survive. But
it is.
Anyway, it's a good museum. Go check it out. They have a working boatyard there, so you can actually see some of the old techniques being used to hew boats. Yeah, which is pretty neat.
Because they don't show much of the boat building in Vinland Saga, so that's the only way you can... Anyway, Vinland Saga is fantastic.
Now, did you want to, though, touch on, because you had brought up with me that, all the garbage fans that I thought would come along for Megalobox, they didn't show up until Vinland Saga. Why was that?
Yeah, so my first theory, and you correct me on this, my first theory was why I noticed there is an unusual amount of shitty Vinland Saga fans, and it reminded me of the old, kind of a bygone era of old manly anime fans who hated...
you mean like the Berserk
fans? Yes, hence why I brought the comparison. It was just these people who were fans of old manly anime and hated all the cute shit.
Yeah, and I will point out though that I think the ones who have manifested around Vinland Saga aren't actually the folks who were back in the day. I think there's just, a new set of shitheads.
Specifically, the shitheads who are gathering around Vinland Saga are exactly the kind of weird white nationalist people who gather around anything to do with, like, medieval or Viking stuff.
So, you gotta give me some credit here, though, because you were talking about to me, like, I wonder why that is. And I was like, well, wasn't the leader of Megalobox a black man?
Yeah.
Of
color, anyway, yeah.
This Vinland Saga is focused around the Vikings, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's this whole subset of white nationalism that, is obsessed with the Vikings and with the idea of, like, oh, yes, this was the pure white culture, and, back when men were manly and women knew their place and we didn't have all these gross minorities screwing things up because we had a pure society.
Yeah.
So, through no fault of its own, Vinland Saga seems fairly well tailored to appeal to some of the worst individuals in anime fandom.
So same people who will gather around those medieval like sword fighting simulator games. Yeah, it appears a number of them. Vinland Saga has been attracting them, and that makes me so fucking uncomfortable because it's such a great show, and it feels like most people with anime fandom recognize that Vinland Saga is an incredible show. It's definitely gotten plenty of accolades, and hopefully more because is it Wit Studio? No, yeah, it's Wit who've done it. They've done a fantastic job with it.
Well, and all these folks. We get back to the absurdity of anime Nazis being into anime in the first place when they're white supremacists.
Yeah.
This is an even more absurd example of it because it's like, yes, Vikings, you do know this is made by Asian people, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get that's what's going on here, right? But, I think I feel like it's easier, and a lot of folks probably would disagree with me, but I do feel like it's a little easier to ignore those fans because fandom has gotten so large that you don't end up in the situation anymore where people feel as, compelled to defend bad actors within the fandom because, well, we're not as much of an embattled group of nerds anymore. Anime is pretty mainstream.
Anime is very mainstream. Speaking of shitty people on the internet, I want to talk about a thing I've noticed built around Dr. Stone, which came out this season.
Oh, and that was the one that I thought you were going to talk about because that was the one that people were like, oh, this is not a top decade list.
Yeah.
Well, we know who funded it and who wrote this list.
Oh, yeah. So we'll talk about that first. So Dr. Stone was a shonen manga. I think it even runs in Shonen Jump.
It does.
Drawn by the fella who did some other really ridiculous shonen action bloody tit thing. Sun Ken Rock.
Yeah, so now I can picture it.
Yes.
Because all that my brain was doing was thinking of the Baki the Grappler guy.
Nah.
Now he also can't draw women.
Yes. The author, but there's a certain stupid energy to Dr. Stone that's very infectious. Stupid enthusiasm that I find really infectious. Like, to a point where it's almost reminded me halfway to being of Prison School earlier on. That same kind of stupid...
I get what you're saying, but...
Yeah.
Dr. Stone is a lot more appropriate for a younger audience.
Yes. As much as the author can't draw women, they look like weird fish.
Prison School, it's great for babies.
Yes. The best... And... So Crunchyroll put out their top anime of the decade list, and they put Dr. Stone in the top 25 because they separated that out. And a lot of people, because Dr. Stone was still airing at the time, were like, oh, Dr. Stone, why did that end up here? Maybe because Crunchyroll funded it? And
yeah. Which, of course, my reaction, as I said to you at the time, if Crunchyroll was going to include a show in their top 25 that was something they funded fairly recently, look, folks, it could have been Shield Hero. I would 1,000 times take the inclusion of Dr. Stone over Shield Hero. Dr.
Stone is a very positive show about the story is a bloke. There's a big kind of bomb effect sort of thing.
Look. Everybody turns to stone one day.
Everyone turns to stone.
There's really no actual reason for it. Don't worry about it. That part isn't important. What's important is that then, 5,000 years later, a few of them de-stonify and are like, whoa, what the fuck? What? And then they're working to, A, try to not die, but B, to try to wake some other folks up. And that is how the story starts. And what's his face, Senku, who is basically the titular Dr. Stone, who is this science nerd in his normal, like, modern Japan life is the one who is like, okay, I'm going to use the power of science to help us not die. But I would like to point out, though, that it's not in an exclusionary sense.
Yes,
he is not set up as like our savior. So it's not, because I think that could sound like a power fantasy type thing.
And in many ways,
think that's...
in many ways, I think it is actually a power fantasy. It's this...
But it's the less... arguably, it's one that's a bit less common.
One of the things I think they imply so early on that this is ridiculous is the reason why he knows how many years in the future it was because he counted.
Yeah, while he was
in stone. He counted for 3,000 years. Which I think is the perfect example of, this guy's ridiculous. But the most magical moments of this show are where they use so they meet a tribe of people who are sort of descendant from, there's spoilers, I won't get into it, but basically people who clearly didn't have no knowledge of the old world. And the science advancements he makes with them, such as things as where a character puts on glasses for the first time and they can see, those are some of the most magical moments in the show. But what's really important about it is that he meets another character called Chrome, who's one of these new people, and he is a science nerd in himself, but he is equally as enthusiastic about science, and sometimes comes to the conclusions without Senku telling him.
Yeah.
Which is really important for the show, because one thing I noticed about the show is the villain in it specifically wants to... He basically says, fuck boomers, because they control all the money and all the government and all the power. So we're not going to make any old people... We're not going to resurrect any old people. We are just going to smash all their statues and just build a new civilization where we're all the kids are happy together. It's only good people. A bit like Yagami is what I'm saying. And hey, I saw a bunch of people being like, this guy says fuck boomers. He's my hero. And I was like, wow, you guys learned nothing from Light Yagami, did you?
To be fair, that described a fair amount of the people who watched Death Note.
Yes. And one thing that's really important about Dr. Stone is because one of my favourite moments is where Chrome, by watching something that Senku was showing them generating electricity for the... Actually, it wasn't even electricity, it was just a gear. And he, something clicks in his mind. And he goes away for a couple of days with another carpenter in the village and comes back and goes, look what I made. And they go and it's like, look, I made a water wheel. And for Chrome, he's originally really disappointed because Senku's like, oh, it's a water wheel. And he's like, no, you know what it is. He's like, no, I'm blown away. You came up with this by yourself. And it's the important message of the show is that you can't stop this. The natural inquisitiveness of humans will mean we will reach this point. We will continue to advance. And that is not only magical, but also inclusive and really powerful in that regard. And that's why I think Dr. Stone is special. And why when people are going, made top 25, it's like, actually, this is a really, really great show. And I think it didn't actually make my top 25. It came 27th in my list.
Wow.
But Dr. Stone's really good. I really, really like it. Although the last thing they make in the show is a cell phone.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty silly.
Why did you make a fucking radio, Senku? It's so much easier. Anyway, so I've talked about two shows that I love. That's something that you've actually watched.
Well, I mean, I loved Symphogear. This summer, I watched the most shows that I watched all year.
I actually found it surprising.
By a long shot, because I really didn't watch much else the rest of the year.
I liked how you didn't watch either Vinland Saga or Dr. Stone, but you could have easily explained what both of them were because you watched big chunks of them over my shoulder.
I didn't actually see much of Vinland Saga over your shoulder.
I guess I just talk about it
I just have that historical background.
And then you have your husband going, look at King Canute, isn't he a bishy?
And to which I was like, God, what a wild concept.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he would be, I suppose. Oh, that reminds me of my favorite thing we learned in Denmark was about, what's his face, that English guy who was,
Oh.
the incel who was bitching about how,
the Danish
all
are
the
coming.
English women run after the Danes because, those stupid Danes, they change their clothes
Yes.
and they bathe regularly and they do their hair. These stupid bitches, they're so shallow because they go for that. It's the worst. They'd rather be like a concubine to one of them than to marry a good English bloke.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, God. There's a bunch of other things that I watched. Not all of them were good. I should probably talk about the ones I actually liked first.
Let's do a mixture. We've been very positive this episode so far.
True. All right, then I will go with something. Now, granted, I did not finish this, but wow, folks. Gonzo sure made something horrible this season. Try Nights.
Oh, gosh. You've gone right down the bottom.
I was astonished at how bad the visuals were for this. Even being fully aware that Gonzo is not what it was in, 2008. We'll go back that far. This was still astonishingly awful. Just some of the worst animation I've seen in a TV series this decade was in Try Nights. It's a rugby anime. It's bad.
It was made in part because Japan hosted the Rugby World Cup this year.
Yeah. And actually, there's another rugby show coming out in 2020. Winter of 2020. So you won't hear us talk about it until 2029, of course.
Obviously, yes.
But yeah, oh God, it's so bad. It's on Crunchyroll, so if you want to check out the first episode, you can. And you can experience the visual ugliness yourself. It also didn't have anything compelling underneath that ugly animation. It involves, you've got two guys who are high school students, and one is like an ex-rugby prodigy or something, but he's like, I won't play, you can't make me, and is sort of passing himself off as being a dweebish sort. And then he gets badgered into coming to a practice, and he gets insulted by a bunch of the older guys on the rugby team, and he's like, "Pwah, check this out," and kicks their asses, and yeah. I want to say I could have sworn this was originally planned for 25 episodes.
Oh, really?
And it only ended up being 12 or 13.
It's a
I don't know at what point it got cut. No, saying it's a bishy show makes it sound like you'd actually want to look at anything in it.
I just remember the promo material looking very much like one of those like sexy idol boy shows, but they were all wearing rugby outfits, which I thought was pretty funny.
Well, and the dead giveaway, I suppose, there is that almost all of the promo material was stuff drawn by the original author, not by the people who worked on the show. Yeah.
Speak of a few other terribly animated shows this season, since we're going to be talking about some bad stuff now.
Oh,
God. First thing I want to bring up is Ari Fureta, which I don't remember the...
Is this the one that's Death March to the Parallel World?
No.
Rhapsody? Oh, no, that's a different one.
That's just called Death March. I don't remember... it's some isekai garbage.
I just remember reading a review of the light novel, the first light novel that was released in English, Volume 1. And so when this got announced, I was like, wait a minute. That's the one that the first volume involves an incredible amount of lolly sex.
Yeah. So, but it was a popular light novel in Japan because it had lolly sex, I guess. And I got the anime.
It's done well in the West too, unfortunately.
And the anime was absolute garbage. People were furious at just how much they fucked it up. The animation was terrible. The whole adaptation was awful.
But here's the irony.
Yes.
So this was originally supposed to have come out in the winter of 2018. And the original author, went on Twitter to basically trash the studio, trash all of the staff and everything, and just this long tirade about how they were all, incompetent, stupid, and they were making something bad. So the anime got pushed back because they changed the entire staff, and the result was this pile of visual poop.
God, I wonder what it originally looked like.
But I don't know how far along it was originally. Having said that, tons of people watched it, and it's getting a second season, and everyone's like, "Oh, this thing's horrible! Oh, it's the worst!
I have to see
keep
more
watching
of it."
Which I guess is another reminder, folks, that hate watching things does have some consequences.
Yeah.
Particularly as revenue shifts increasingly to digital.
Yeah.
Then there's another isekai that looked like crap.
Oh?
Do you love your mom and her two...
It didn't look like crap. That was animated perfectly fine.
It did not look...
The mommy's boobs bounced perfectly.
It was not a good-looking show. Just because it looked better than Try Nights and Ari Ferrita does not mean it was good-looking.
I know, I thought the
for that matter, we might as well also be like, hey, Copcraft.
That was the one I was
Some
going
of that
in.
was really bad-looking.
Oh dear, Copcraft makes me sad. Because Copcraft was an anime original buddy cop show, kind of sci-fi buddy cop show. Think, Blood Blockade, where there's like aliens and humans interacting in the one world.
Or think of Men in Black.
Oh, Men in Black's actually better.
That's, I think, a much better comparison.
Yes, Men in Black's a much better comparison. And it's written by the author of Full Metal Panic. Quite talented. He also wrote Hyoka, for example.
Yeah.
A talented guy, and he clearly watched a lot of like Western buddy cop. Slightly trashy. The show's a wee bit...
The show is...
very B-movie.
The thing is, I find it difficult to talk about Copcraft because there are things about it that are surprisingly good, and I think there are some things it does very well. But it's cheek by jowl with episodes involving, an anime girl swapping consciousness with a cat,
and then
the cat in her body shitting in a litter box. I mean, and that also means I can't recommend this to anyone. How could I possibly recommend a show that does that to someone?
It's a wee bit...
Like, hey, this is a pretty good show. You should check out. Oh, yeah, by the way, you might want to skip episode 9 because an anime girl shits in a litter box. Like, what? How can I...
But then there's really good episodes, like the one where they resurrect the, ancient vampire queen thingy.
But that went nowhere.
But it was really good.
It was good, but it didn't go anywhere.
Or the one where...
And to be fair, it didn't contribute anything toward the overarching storyline.
There was the prostitute who slept with the politician, and then...
she is an aspiring photographer.
Which was really good.
That was a great episode.
And also the show, because we bitched about Carol and Tuesday a lot last week.
This show was, it's kind of amazing that Copcraft did a much more nuanced consideration and analysis of politics and of racism.
Specifically, racism and politics.
Than Carol and Tuesday.
And dealing with racism as both person who knows of people being racist and the person who people are being racist to. It's like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with knowing that the people around you voted for a person who thinks your race is... Or... parasitic.
How on earth do you decide on who to vote when, all of your options have serious character flaws?
Yeah.
How do you vote in that sort of situation?
Yeah. There is, as we mentioned though, one extremely key...
the visuals are really bad.
You are underselling just how awful they are.
I mean, so I would say they range between... I didn't think they were horrible in the first episode.
Yeah, so...
But the end of the first story arc was horrific visually.
If they get away with it, I mean, there's some amazing... anytime they have to do action, which, given it's a buddy cop show, is relatively frequently, it's embarrassing. It's cringy.
It's the sort of thing where it's like... We just zoomed in this camera very quickly on this one frame to try to disguise the fact that this is
shaky
really animated.
Oh, it's one of the worst animated shows I've seen in a decade, and it makes me so upset because there's really good stuff about the show, particularly compared to a show that is incredibly well animated that came out this season.
Fire Force.
Fucking hell, that thing looks incredible. One of the best animated... I gather... So I'm reading some reviews now because it just ended recently. And I read some reviews of people who say like some of the choreography as it goes on is actually quite bad.
Yeah, I know one of the things I've read was that there was definitely a decline in the visuals over time.
Maybe as people... But some of the way they animate the fire and the movement and even small things like a character flexing, or it's beautifully animated.
I still maintain that I think... So this isn't strictly about animation, but the first ending for the show...
Yeah.
That was an incredibly deft presentation of backstory for one of the characters. Just a really skilled use of, that I think most of the rest of the show is complete crap, but I was really impressed with the ending theme.
As the author of Soul Eater, so they have a style. They have a specific style that they're really good at, and this has that. Shame it's garbage.
Terrible at treating its female characters with anything halfway approaching decency.
It's not a good show.
But let's go back to Copcraft, which we actually liked.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I actually didn't have much more to say about it. It's just,
Okay.
God, it's a strange... I never knew what the hell was coming next in Copcraft. I never had any idea whatsoever. Which wasn't always good, but it did make it... I was never bored watching Copcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Fire Force, fuck that show.
But just something else that actually got a really primo and like really good visual treatment that for something that you normally wouldn't was Given.
Given, yes, which I actually watched.
Yeah.
This show is great.
This is
a BL that was on Noitamina. And it is a band story. Because it's focused around a band. Well, it's primarily focused on the two younger members of the band who are both high school students. They meet because one of them comes across the other sitting in the stairwell with a guitar. The basic story itself isn't anything that's particularly novel. Insofar as, about having a band and trying to make it work and that kind of thing,
and finding yourself in your own confidence. It's a lot like Beck in that. Like this has been done before.
But it's also, Mafuyu, who is the one who he has his guitar, but he doesn't know how to play it. That's part of what gets the interest of the other guy in the first place, because, well, that's weird. It's this really nice guitar, and he does not know how to play it. Why does he have this guitar? Well, you find out it belonged to someone who mattered to him a fair bit and who died. So, in particular with regards to Mafuyu, he is having to work through grief, and he's someone who he himself says, he hasn't always, even before he experienced loss, he wasn't always great at expressing himself, and experiencing that loss has caused him to withdraw a fair bit again, and he's having to, feel his way back out of his shell and back into the rest of the world, which he ends up doing through music. So there's a lot of build-up. There is a concert in the second to last episode that they've basically been building up to throughout the whole thing, and man, that concert scene, I've watched that concert scene so many times.
The best concert scene since Haruhi Suzumiya.
Oh my god. Okay, look. Haruhi Suzumiya's concert scene, did it have an emotional dimension to it?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. No. I mean, this has an emotional dimension to... So, there's that.
But was he wearing a bunny girl outfit?
No, because it isn't fucking Sankareya.
No, that's not...
shitting all over its emotional scenes.
Wow, that's a pull.
Yeah, well, I remember that being something that bothered you intensely about it,
yes.
So... Given was really good, and it's already had a movie announced that's coming out next spring.
And this label that does...
Yeah, so Blue Lynx is... It's a project by TV Tokyo, actually. Where essentially...
TV Tokyo run Noitamina, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is essentially... it is this production funding effort where they have funded, this is a funding source where they contract studios to give fairly high dollar fancy adaptations of BL and Yaoi. And this was the first one that came out of it. There's 3 films that are coming out.
Was Dokusei that movie that wasn't part of this?
I don't think that was part of this.
Yeah, but it's between Dokusei and Yuri on Ice both being pretty... Yuri on Ice especially.
Yeah.
Being such a huge success. It was like, oh...
There's an audience for this.
There's an audience for this if we put a lot of...
effort
into it.
Yeah, some of the other stuff like Twittering Birds Never Fly, which just came out, which is a movie. There's a couple of other movies that are coming out under this, but it seems like it, at very least, it seems like it's paying off decently. Yeah, Given was really good.
Anyway.
Yeah,
and then,
I liked it.
And then they really got a bunch of like smaller shows that came out this season, but still, some of them still really, really good. Such as the one that caused me to push my desk chair aside and start doing push-ups.
Oh my god. How heavy are the dumbbells you lift?
Which we watched together in this case. This is a great show. A really great show.
I like it a lot, but I also have some fairly significant reservations about it.
Yeah. It's... Girl eats a lot, but she wants a nice body. She's a... Not a galco. What it...
She is a gal.
She's a gal.
She's a gal.
She's a gal, co-gal. She wants to... She's, got the tan skin, the blonde hair. And she wants to look damn fine, but she eats too much. She's like, I'm worried about my weight. And then...
Well, okay. Let me have you slightly rephrase that. She's chowing away and having a great time in the first half. Yeah. And her shitty friend's like, ugh, Hibiki, how can you eat all that? You're getting fat.
You fat bitch.
And it's like... Hibiki is, typical anime girl fat, which means not by any other measure, not fat. But, she's got this friend pestering her, and she starts getting like, oh shit, you're right. Like, my skirt feels a little tighter. Oh shit. So she ends up joining a gym.
Yeah, that's the part where the reason why I have such a lot of time for this is so many times I'm so fucking sick and tired of when an anime... Like, whatever, maybe Hibiki has a bit of weight. You can't really tell in anime form. But let's say she does. In anime time, so often it's anime go, oh no, I've put on some weight. Now I will starve myself by going on this stupid diet. Like, that. What's that one about the fat girl who starves herself and then all the boys like her?
Oh, God, but she doesn't even do it intentionally.
Yeah.
She, I know the one you're talking about. I hate it. It's the one where she's playing the Otome game.
Yeah.
Or... her favorite show.
Kiss him, not me.
Yes, or maybe it was her favorite show and like...
her favorite character dies.
Dude dies and she locks herself in a room and doesn't eat.
And that's like, anime has this weird message of like, if you starve yourself to be pretty. And it's such a toxic message. And then for like Dumbbells to come along and say, no, you can keep eating. You can be pretty and fit and look good and feel good about yourself if you work out. And it's like... This is such a better positive message, and who better to deliver that message than Machio-san?
I don't think it's as positive a message as you think it is. I felt really weirded out by how it gives the calorie count for every item of food that goes into the lead's mouth. Even as it's like, look, it's fine to eat what you want, just... If you work out, then you're fine. I'm not convinced that's actually... Also, admittedly, at some points, the science is a bit questionable.
Some of the science in the diet stuff is like, but it's definitely like, it's more the message of you don't have to starve yourself.
I mean, given how absolutely dire the media landscape is, well, the anime landscape is when it comes to, girls and food... I at least, it's a step in the right direction, I guess. I still think it is its issues. For me, the fact that I liked the cast so much overcame a lot of my reservations because the lead, Hibiki, oh God, I thought she was great. I loved her.
Hibiki's great.
Her the friend she makes at the gym, the girl, what's her face?
Who had the kind of Ojo Sam.
Who is horny for, well,
Muscles.
basically like Arnold Schwarzenegger types.
Yes.
And, you know, there's Machio, who is the trainer at the gym, who, big plus points, he's not a creep, which is such a low bar to clear, but holy hell, the shows that don't clear that bar.
I love his, hello, muscle oni-chan dayo.
He's so pure.
If you've seen him, he's the guy who goes Saido Chesto and explodes out of his clothes.
Yes. I can't imagine how he, you know, trainers at gyms don't actually usually make that much money, so I don't know how he keeps himself in clothes at all, the rate at which he explodes them.
I was going to say, he does appear... I love when they, like, get out the workout DVD with the real creepy man, and then they got, like, background... like, people in the background doing this workouts along with them, and one of them goes, wait, that one on the left, that's Machio-san, isn't it?
Yeah. Machio, I love him.
Machio's great. And then another thing I also like about the show is they let the girls be sexy for their own benefit. Like, I want to look good and feel good in myself. Here I am wearing my swimsuit and I feel good about this. Like the girl who does the teacher who does all the cosplaying and how she's got the funny tan on her belly button because she was dressed up as...
Yeah, she does some fairly racy cosplay.
Yes.
And then is mortified because she almost runs into her students.
Yes. And the show definitely are like, hey, check out these, you know, check out these bodies, so on and so forth. It's definitely a bit like, yeah, etchy, but it lets the girls be sexy in their own right rather than having it be leery through male.
I will say some of the sequences where they go over, you know, like, this is how you do this exercise.
And then at the end, they do the sexy pose.
Yeah, that's not really on their terms.
No. I felt like most of the time they were doing it, they were like going like, how do I put it? I think it's okay for...
Okay, but we're still talking about something that was made...
Majority
of the production was by men.
Yeah.
And it's 16-year-old girls. So... They are creations of males.
Yeah,
you know, they're not independent agents.
It is a seinen mag. I just appreciate that compared to how
and I will also say though, it is so much less skeevy than I ever would have imagined it being. And again, I did like the cast a lot.
Yeah.
It was a very endearing cast.
I like the show a lot. But yeah, other stuff this season, speaking of teens and sex.
Oh, Maidens in Your Seventh season, which I stopped watching after episode 3 because I am reading the manga and I didn't want to get past where I am in the manga.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't like it,
described this relatively early on as, certainly the first half is Aquarian Evol, but without the giant robots. In part because this is by the same writer, Mario Okada.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mario Okada.
Yeah.
Teenagers learning about sex and then being very, very awkward about it.
Yeah. Now, you haven't noted, of course, what sets it apart from a lot of those shows. It's focused around girls.
Oh, yeah.
It's 5 girls and they're in the literature club. And for some reason, they decided at some point before the show starts that they're going to read adult literature. So they're reading sex scenes aloud to each other. And they're also like, wait, but I don't really
get
what's
this.
What's going on here?
Like, just
graphic... Is it really like eating a pork bowl? What?
Yes. Graphic depictions of eating someone out and then thinking like, we have no experience with this.
Like, wait, what?
I don't get this.
Is that possible? Or is it just... Is this just literary exaggeration? And they end up having a conversation that's like, well, if there was one thing you want to make sure you do before you die, what is it? And one of the girls is like, I want to have sex. And everybody else is like, whoa. And it's this paradigm shifting moment. And it's a comedy, though, too.
It's a comedy for the start.
So, and I of what I've seen of it, I think the manga's funnier.
Yeah.
Like I said, I watched 3 or 4 episodes and I was like, no, I can't go past to where I've read the manga.
But like because it's weirdly earnest, which makes some of the, I mean, this is kind of what Evil had as well. Is because it's weirdly earnest, the comedy is just that much funnier. Like,
oh god, like when she discovers, so the primary lead discovers that she accidentally ends up with, like, is it that she
has a DVD and has to give it back to...
Yeah, so she ends up with the DVD. It's a porn DVD, but it was in the case for some children's thing.
Yes.
And, she's trying to sneak it back into her childhood friend's room because she doesn't want him to realize that she's come across this, which is kind of funny considering in the first episode, she walks in on him masturbating, which totally freaks them both out. And she's gotten into his room and she is trying to put it back, and then she has this moment, she's like, oh, that's right, he loves trains because he has all these train models, and she's looking at it and she's like, oh god, there's some more porn. And then she's like, oh, I understand though, you couldn't bear to put it into the case of, and it's like some childhood train movie. And she's like, of course, that's why you put it, you couldn't watch porn that took place on a train.
That's why he was watching He was watching
bus porn involving a bus.
Bus molestation porn. Because he couldn't watch train molestation.
That
He's
was
too
the pure
innocent.
thing that he was, mattered to him from his childhood.
So
it's so funny.
That shit's great. Then it gets into the most absurd soap opera with the most ridiculous twists of teachers running off with students, and oh my god,
I really like the cast, but a lot related to that, there are a couple of the cast members that I'm like, child, cut that shit out, what are you doing, stop.
There's a girl who fancies who wants the teacher to fuck her, and that is
so there's one of them who she's trying to make it as a writer. And she's being told, like, well, you got to be able to write a sex scene. And she can't because she's, like, 16 years old. And so she's like, oh, I know, I'll go chat in erotic chats. And ends up chatting to someone who turns out to be one of the teachers. And instead of it being like, okay, this was a bad idea, it's like, ooh, I know.
I'll use this for blackmail.
Yeah, I'll make him become the advisor to our literature club. Nothing could go wrong.
And then there's the girl who tries to get back with her ex-abusive acting teacher, which she had as a child, who's some weird fucking Woody Allen creep.
Then there's the girl who's clearly trying to figure out that, gee, I like girls.
Oh, the poor.
I don't really get this, like, why are we supposed to be into boys?
Yeah.
I'm confused. Oh.
I might be gay.
Yeah. I think I like girls. God bless her.
The ending is awful. The ending is...
Don't tell me what the ending is.
It's
ahead of where I've read.
It's just horrible drama. It's exactly the kind of stuff that I previously don't like. The stuff Mario Okada usually writes, it turns back into that, and I hated it. It kind of ruined the show for me a bit, but... Honestly, for 5 episodes or so, it's fucking hilarious, great. Then for another 5 episodes, this is ridiculous, but pretty entertaining. And then, like, final 2 episodes, it's...
Again, I did find the manga consistently a lot funnier than what I watched of the show. I think some of the humor ended up getting cut. Probably because it wouldn't have translated too well to the visual screen.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that we might have fireworks sounds in the background of this.
Oh yeah, we're recording this on New Year's Eve.
And it's, so there were a few other things. I think, oh, you know what? There is one other thing that was good. The girl from the other side.
Ooh, yes.
I'll let you pronounce the Irish.
Shularoon.
This was a 10 minute long adaptation of the manga, a 10-minute adaptation of the manga, The Girl from the Other Side, which is written by...
I don't know who it's written by.
They've done something else I've read. Oh, I think they might write furry stuff otherwise.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, there's no...
Dialogue.
So the story is roughly that there's this little girl and her guardian is this...
Crow-headed.
No, not crow. Doesn't he have the head like the, it's because he's got antlers.
Does he? Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of older school. I mean, the Celtic title I don't think is mere trappings alone.
Oh, no, yeah.
It's this kind of older school,
Druidic. Celtic. Yeah.
Celtic. Anyway, he's not human. And he's her guardian, and there's no dialogue in this. The manga does have dialogue, but there's no dialogue in this. And
it's all watercolor type drawing animation.
it's gorgeous.
And it looks it's done by Wit Studio, and they just hired just basically amateur animators who they'd seen the work of and really enjoyed and said, we want to just go wild with this piece.
Yeah.
And they put out this 10-minute short OVA. It was really good.
It's excellent. I'd say it's definitely something to check out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
No dialogue, just really beautiful telling of the story through visuals. And I know I read some people who had read the manga who then watched it talking about how, this is kind of the only way you really could have adapted it. I've since read part of the manga, and I'm inclined to agree that this is served well by that approach. I think that kind of finishes us on... Well, did you like... Oh, no, we didn't talk about... Oh, God, there's a bunch of things we haven't talked about.
Yes, like Astra.
Or Lord El Malloy.
Yeah. So first of all, Astra Lost in Space it's a Shonen Jump manga, actually.
Yeah.
It's Lost in Space. It's a bunch of teenagers go on a spaceship, and then the spaceship suddenly gets transported to a place they don't recognize, and they have to find their way back. It's very lighthearted, considering it's very reminiscent of, Lord of the Flies type stuff.
Or, what's it called?
Infinite Revice.
Yeah, or They Were 11 even.
Yes. I mean, these are all draw from the same...
wellspring.
Well, this is much more lighthearted. I think the writing is ultimately a bit too childish. I couldn't get into it, but its heart is in the right place. I have no problems with Astra Lost in Space. I gave it a chance. I couldn't get into it, but I like the kind of weird science they have there. I'll always get into something where they go to weird planets and look at all the fauna and weird creatures that this unique planet has. Like the one where they stand on these giant flowers that launch them 50,000 feet into the air like trampolines or things like that. Yeah, it's got its heart in the right place. I just couldn't get into it.
God, I'm damping with faint praise.
Yeah, I kind of am, and it is faint praise, but
let's see, of the stuff that's remaining,
Lord El Malloy.
So that's the only thing here that's left that I actually finished.
Yeah.
So Lord El Malloy 2's case files, or the case files of Lord El Malloy 2, I can't remember. So this is fate bullshit. Hey folks, remember fan favorite Waver Velvet?
Yeah.
Yeah, guess what?
I loved Waver Velvet.
Now he's 30 and he hates everything.
Well, that makes sense.
Also, he's 30, but he looks like he's about 60 because, anime aging and all that. He is a professor now, and he teaches the youngins magic in the capacity that his former teacher did. The original Lord El Malloy. Remember Cainith?
Yes.
He was the one who had his limbs cut off.
He was the one... Wasn't Cainith the one who had a wheelchair bound? He was the one who had Diarmid the Lancer, didn't he?
Yes.
In Fate's
Zero. And his wife got horny for Diarmid.
Yes.
Because everyone does,
He was not a good person.
Anyway, so Waver's like, it's my fault he died. Even though he was kind of racist and awful, I feel like I now have to take his place. There's also some other stuff about he ends up taking on the debts of the family and, until the heir can grow up old enough. I mean, she kidnaps him and is like, hey, guess what, motherfucker? Yeah, you're going to do this for me.
While sitting on 4 chairs at once.
Yeah, because at the time she's a little kid.
Yeah.
He's not that old at that point. That's happens, This was never good.
Here's the thing,
I found the earlier bits entertaining, and then it just gets gummed up with the usual fate crapola, and by the end I was like, my God, is this going to show any signs of life? Or are we just really in full-on, Fate-verse crapola land?
It's the magic in the Fate-verse I find incredibly boring.
Oh, it's so boring. Yeah. And it's not that this was ever... Again, I don't think this was ever good. The cases are stupid for the most part.
Yes, it was not a well-written show.
How the murders happen, and it's sort of insistence that it's like, oh, it's not a whodunit, it's a why-done-it. It's like, okay, folks, go off. But it got worse as time went on, because it started climbing into its own bumhole again, as that whole franchise is really into doing most of the time. I will say this, it's really hilarious to me. There is one episode where basically the plot of the episode is this cafe's like, why is our electrical bill gone up so much? This is weird. And Lord Elmaloy II has to go down to the sewers and ends up, fighting Pikachu, Wizard Pikachu, because, one of these freaking mages has decided to tap into this cafe's electrical supply to make, Pikachu monster. And as someone who has lived in the UK and I'm familiar with the way that electrical bills look there, there's this moment where the villain's like, but how did you catch on? And Lord Elmaloy II pulls out an electric bill and holds it up, and it's like, as you can see here, this electrical bill is very high. And I was like, wait, how is this a real show? I was also amused by, there's an episode where they get stuck in the Fate versus version of Harrods.
Oh, I do remember.
Which they got the set design dead on.
Which I like because I watched 2 episodes and said this is stupid. I really like that because they explain. It's like, why does this place look so fucking gaudy and awful?
Oh yeah.
And they said, oh, because that's how magic is.
That's how the mages are. It's it's mages. That's why it looks awful.
And I'm like, finally, someone explains why Harrods looks fucking awful.
See, I don't think it looks fucking awful. I think it looks eccentric is how I would put it.
So I appreciate...
See, I go... Look, before everybody gets out, pitchforks on me, I go in there to get tea. Thank you very much, folks. I have been into some of the upper floors and been... But it was only because I had to use the toilet. Okay, yeah. And I looked at a few tags on things, and I was like, what?
There are 5 figures on this single article of clothing.
I'm gonna go back downstairs and find my tin of tea and leave. By the way, they discontinued some teas I really like. But anyway, yeah, Lord Elmaloy, by the end of it, I was just fed up with its crapola. There's also a couple other things I didn't like, but I watched parts of, was Bem.
Yeah.
This was the latest adaptation of a show that's originally from, is it the 60s?
Yes, it's really old.
And it involves...
It's in black and white originally.
It involves 3... for lack of a better term, they're basically yokai.
Half yokai, yeah.
And they're trying to become fully human. And this was the, ultra gritty take on it that reminded me of horror shows from the earlier part of the 2000s that were... the gritty sorts where it's just like, yeah, this is grim. Bad shit happens to people for no goddamn reason.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminded me of.
Just an unrelentingly grim tone of this is how the way the world works, kid. And, I ended up watching 5 episodes of it. And because a couple of those episodes were screamingly hilarious because it was taking itself so seriously. But then it got boring. And so I dropped it.
If you want to watch yokai busting stuff, just catch up with...
Bleach!
No, I was going to say, what's the one that's airing now?
Muyo and Roji's Case Files.
Gay.
Oh, Gay.
I mean, that's airing now, so
Yeah.
you can just watch that instead.
The other one was Grand Belm, which I realize has a cult following, and I don't understand why. I didn't get it. I did enjoy the fact that the mechs in it make zoom noises, which was fantastic. More mechs should make those noises. But it was like, oh, so you decide to make Madoka Magica, but with mechs. Okay. Not sure why you felt a need to, but, well, you know.
I just remembered a really good thing I like about Vinland Saga
Is they also have mechs that go zoom? Do the ships go zoom?
Specifically, there's Thorkel. We talked about Best Girl Thorkel, the tall, who is, like 10 feet tall compared to everyone else in that show. And I realized how they animate him, because he, when he stands up, he shoots steam. He shoots steam out of his nostrils. Like, the noise he makes as he moves.
He is a mech.
He is a mech. They animate him like a mech, and it is fucking great.
Mobile Suit Gundam Viking.
Mobile Suit Gundam.
Anyway, yeah, Grand Belm.
Yeah.
I guess it's... As someone who didn't like Madoka a whole lot, Grand Belm to me smelled of... I didn't like Madoka, but the idea that its imitators and it were all the same in the sense of, hey, haha, needless suffering, oh, watch the cute girl suffer. I think that's unfair on Madoka. This, though, I think was doing that.
Okay.
And it was like, not one of these. But hey, at least the mech zoomed.
Okay.
I think that about... Oh, well, did you see Weathering with You?
No, I don't.
No, I'm sorry. I'm mixing that up with Ride Your Wave.
Okay.
I keep mixing them up in my head because they both involve water, I guess.
Wait, is Weathering with You the one by Shinkai?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do actually want to bring this up because this has been giant in Japan. It hasn't really made waves in the West yet, which is why we haven't heard about it much.
I don't know how much it's been released in the West at this point.
It was showing...
Now, I do know that the novel was licensed.
People have seen it. It was at Scotland Loves Anime, but the tickets were sold out. And I'm not the biggest Shinkai fan anyway, but...
No!
I know. But it's fairly clear that now it's not on the scale of Your Name.
Well,
I mean,
few things are.
But it's already... It was like the top grossing domestic film in Japan for that year.
Okay.
It's kind of proven that Shinkai has taken on this new mantle of being, you're the one. You're the one that everyone in Japan goes to see now.
The Midas touch.
You have the Midas touch. And Weathering with You is the next one of those. It's not as big as Your Name. Nothing ever will be again. But it's been huge in Japan. And we haven't really heard much about it yet because it's purely been a Japan thing for now. But Shinkai's got it. He's caught the imagination of Japan.
Yeah.
And this is part of the fault of doing a decade retrospective this close to the end of the decade.
We don't know what it all means yet.
But
you better move that mouse. There is one other thing I do want to just make reference to.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Cannon Busters.
Oh, this is the one done by Americans? It's the director and the scriptwriter America, but all the animation is done by Japan.
Yeah, it's a collab. Netflix funded it, and
Yeah.
it's an American-Japanese collab effort.
Specifically by Black Americans, because it's got mainly black cast. Mm-hmm. And because there's been this growing, I'd say Black anime fandom community has all found each other and grown a lot. As anime get bigger, it splinters more effectively, and all the Black anime fans found each other, and it's a really large group, and they don't have much representation in anime. So,
well, and this was, it's a love letter to some of the older mech shows from the 90s and the 80s. Even the name of it sounds that way, does it not? Yeah. Cannon Busters. I I'd like to see it at some point. The reviews have been mixed for it. The way I feel about it is I am more interested in the fact that we're getting things like this than I am necessarily interested in them on their artistic merits.
I think mixed is being a bit... I haven't seen any reviews for it that have been anything more than lukewarm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I would still like to watch it, but, that would require having a Netflix account, which we don't at the moment, so...
No.
Nor do I really feel like, paying for one, so...
And that was the summer 2019 season.
Pretty good season.
Really good season.
Best of the year.
Easily.
Granted, the competition isn't that stiff.
No.
At least from my point of view. Anyway, so that's that.
We'll see you next time for the...
See you next water time.
Okay. For the final season of the year. Which we've delayed until after the new decade comes around because we want to just give at least a week or two to
just a little bit of time for things to settle.
She
says, despite the fact that she isn't watching anything actively. Oh well.
We want to know if these shows are getting second seasons.
I guess it's another way of putting it. Anyway, folks.
See you next time.
お願いマッソめっちゃモテたいお願いマッソめっちゃ痩せたい Yes お願いマッソめっちゃモテたい